I'll never forget the moment I heard those words. "Sir, step away from the fire pit and put your hands where I can see them." I was just minding my business, holding a marshmallow stick in one hand and a half-burnt s'more in the other, enjoying a quiet evening at my lake. Flashlights cut through the trees and red and blue lights flashed in the distance. I turned around and there they were, 2 police officers coming toward me, one with his hand hovering near his holster. My heart was racing, but I stayed calm. "I'm just camping," I said, keeping my voice steady. It was my land, my lake, after all. "We received a call from the HOA president," one of the officers said, his voice sharp. "She says you're trespassing on private land that belongs to the neighborhood." That's when the real tension hit. I stood up slowly, brushing the pine needles off my flannel jacket. I couldn't help but smirk. "This lake, this land," I gestured around the calm water shimmering in the moonlight. "They're not just mine. They've been trespassing on my ranch for years." The officers paused, exchanged a glance. And that's when I pulled out the one document that would end it all, my ranch deed. But let's rewind for a moment. None of this would have happened if I hadn't decided to unplug for the weekend. My name's Thomas Walker Tom to most folks around here. I'm 42, a single dad, and a proud ranch owner out here in Maplewood, just outside Austin, Texas. When my wife passed away 3 years ago, I inherited this ranch from my grandfather, who built it with his own 2 hands. Since then, I've been doing my best to raise my 12-year-old daughter, Harper, while keeping the place running, managing cattle, repairing fences, trying to build up an organic meat business. I hardly had time to breathe. But last month, I promised Harper we'd get away for a weekend. No phones, no Wi-Fi, just the 2 of us camping by the lake. What I didn't know was that the HOA from Oak Glen Estates, the neighborhood next door, had been using my ranch lake like it was their own personal country club. At first, I thought it was harmless. After all, I'm a guy who believes in kindness. If someone needs help, you lend a hand. But that only works if people show you the same respect. And I was about to learn just how much disrespect these HOA folks were hiding behind their fake smiles at block parties. The weekend started simple enough. Harper and I packed up the pickup with tents, food, fishing gear, and her favorite book series. We drove the winding dirt road through the pasture, past the willow trees, all the way to the lake my grandfather had named Mirror Point. He called it that because at dawn the sky seemed to dip down to kiss the water. We set up camp by the old dock, the one I had repaired last summer. I grilled sausages while Harper roasted marshmallows, and we took turns telling spooky stories. It felt like life had finally slowed down. But then the yelling started. From across the lake, I could hear angry voices. "Who gave them permission to camp there?" one voice shouted. "I thought this lake was for HOA members only." The shouts got louder, and before I knew it, flashlights started to pierce the trees, followed by loud footsteps crunching through the leaves. Then I saw her, the queen of the HOA herself, Linda Masters. You know the type. Always dressed like she's about to be on a real estate billboard, pearls in the woods, matching sweater for her dog. She marched right up to me with 2 other HOA board members behind her, both holding clipboards. "This is a violation of HOA regulations," she snapped. I looked around. "You mean my regulations?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "This is my land," she scoffed. "Don't play games, sir. Oak Glen Estates owns this lake. We have signs. We've held meetings. You're camping without permission." Harper clung to my arm. I didn't want to argue in front of her, so I kept my voice calm. "Why don't you check your map again, maybe your property lines too," I suggested. Linda didn't take kindly to that. "We'll be calling the police," she said, her voice cold and smug. I had a bad feeling about this, but I didn't expect what came next. Less than 10 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up. Flashing lights. Officers stepping out like I was some kind of criminal. The same lake where my grandfather had taught me how to fish. The same dock I'd spent hours repairing last summer. The same pine trees we planted to stop erosion. And now they were telling me I didn't belong. I handed Harper a water bottle and told her to stay by the fire while I walked over to the officers. "Evening, officers," I greeted. They explained that they'd received a complaint about someone trespassing on the HOA's private lake. And that's when it hit me. They didn't just use the lake, they thought they owned it. That's when I pulled out my ranch deed, the one I'd laminated and kept in my backpack since working on new zoning boundaries with the county office. I handed it to one of the officers. "This deed says I own 112 acres of ranch land, including this lake," I said. "Including that side of the lake where they built a gazebo, paved a trail, and called it theirs." One officer blinked. "You're saying the HOA is trespassing on your land?" I nodded. And not just trespassing. They've hosted barbecues, built sheds, and even charged dues to use my water. I glanced over to where Harper was standing. She was holding her teddy bear wide-eyed and watching the whole thing unfold. Before the officer could say anything else, Harper screamed. I spun around. She was standing by the fire, pointing toward the trees. A group of HOA members, some of them I didn't even know, were coming toward us, holding their phones, filming, shouting. "We're getting this guy arrested tonight," one man yelled. Another shouted, "This lake belongs to Oak Glen. It's in our pamphlet." Harper grabbed my hand, whispering, "Daddy, they're scaring me." That was when something snapped inside me. I stood up straighter, my voice loud enough for every single one of them to hear. "I hope you all enjoy what's left of your little HOA lake parties, because when I'm done tomorrow morning, every one of you will have a letter on your doorstep telling you you've been illegally using my land. And the party's over." The crowd went silent for a second. Some laughed nervously. Others whispered, but Linda didn't flinch. She just crossed her arms and said, "We'll see about that." Then, just as I was about to say something else, the officer's radio crackled. The report came in from County Land Records confirming what I already knew: Mirror Point Lake belonged to me. It was over. But the real twist came next. Just as we were about to wrap things up, another SUV pulled up fast on the gravel. The passenger door flew open and out stepped someone I hadn't seen in over a decade, my uncle. Daryl. The one who had sold a portion of the land years ago, but apparently not the part he claimed he did. Daryl stepped out of the car, his face tight and angry. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what was coming next.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.